All right, welcome to Frontline. 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We begin some breaking news out of Providence, Rhode Island, where authorities released another new video of the Brown shooter, but they have no new information as to who the shooter is responsible. But there are some interesting and oddly consistent theories about who he is online. I'll leave the research to you. Also, FBI Director Kash Patel dropping a major bombshell, noting that agents doubted whether there was even enough evidence to raid Mar-a-lago. But the DOJ brass, quote, didn't give a damn about optics, and Biden Attorney General Merrick Garland signed off on it anyway. We're going to have much more on that later in the show. And President Trump is set to address the nation tomorrow night. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt giving a hint as to what he's going to speak about.
He's going to talk a lot about the accomplishments over the past 11 months, all that he's done to bring our country back to greatness, and all he continues to plan to do to continue delivering for the American people.
We're going to talk to Stephen Moore in just a minute. But first, if Secretary Hegseth can actually accomplish what he's reportedly trying to accomplish right now, he could actually be the most consequential secretary potentially of my lifetime. What's not on page one right now, but could be next month. Let's do this. So today I'm watching this response from the closed-door briefing on Capitol Hill today, and one thing is pretty clear. All the people attacking Hegseth and Trump and the Department of War over these drug boat strikes, Democrats defending narco-terrorists, I know, right? They're the same people that are supporting people like Mark Kelly. I mean, it's political loyalty. It's not actually patriotism. Chuck Schumer is the perfect example of this.
He refused. The administration came to this briefing empty-handed. That's the major question that we face. And if they can't be transparent on this, how can you trust their transparency on all the other issues swirling about in the Caribbean?
Dude, you can't even pass a budget. Just stop. Okay, people like him, they want to armchair QB this whole thing like days later, weeks later at this point, demanding that this document or this video or that video or whatever be released. Him and the Washington Post, whoever, just demanding classified video simply just to make hay about it. I mean, you guys can just pound sand, okay? Not one of them asked for the footage of America striking Muammar Gaddafi's convoy after he announced a universal gold currency in the United States of Africa, right? Any of the other 500 drone strikes that Obama ordered. Mark Wayne Mullins said something like this.
Guys, I'm losing patience on the whole thing because I think it's ridiculous that we're having this conversation, because underneath Obama, he had 500 strikes, 3,700 different individuals were killed. There wasn't a big show about this. What you guys are all upset about is the hemisphere that's working in. The hemisphere is these are drug terrorist organizations. The same people that Obama went after, some people we've been over for the last 24 years, were terrorist organizations that were wanting to kill Americans.
Same thing, by the way, that Joe Biden voted to go after back in the 90s or 80s, I believe. I mean, like, amen to that, Senator. And by the way, most of the people making these demands, they've never even seen war. They've never seen combat or any conflict beyond fighting for, like, I don't know, parking space at Whole Foods. Most of them don't know anything about classification or any of that stuff. So as far as I'm concerned, they can also get bent. And like he said, stuff like this, never a big deal before. Presidents bomb people all the time that they thought were legitimate threats to America. I mean, Obama killed 4 Americans, if you remember. Hell, Bush got us into a 20-year war without congressional approval that they were less than truthful about the WMDs to justify, and nothing happened. But Democrats impeached Trump over a phone call. You see why this hyperventilating over these drug boats is just so stupid to me? And despite all these self-righteous journalists that think they know, no, we the people are not entitled to all the information on all the matters of war in any administration. Just because we want it or because someone political foe wants to make hay of it into an administration. The real reason this has become a big deal is because people like this, the Seditious Six, and Mark Kelly, who's, by the way, he's facing some like very real possible charges for his actions. And if there was an award for not knowing when to keep your mouth shut, he would get it.
Now they are threatening everything I fought for and served for over 25 years in the U.S. Navy, all because I repeated something every service member is taught, that this president and Secretary of Defense would so corruptly abuse their power to come after me or anyone this way. I will keep doing my job representing Arizona or standing up against anyone who threatens our Constitution and the rule of law.
But Mark, you're not standing up and serving your country. You sold out. If you wanted to actually serve your country, you'd probably be helping stop these drug boats from bringing drugs into the country that are killing Americans rather than sowing discord in the ranks. Again, Kelly, a full bird captain, an 06. He is one level below, a star on his shoulder. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows the risk, but he's so arrogant that he just does it anyway. The real reason they're doing this, the deep state, is zeroing in. Okay, this is very important here. These are some consequential changes being proposed by Pete Hegseth behind closed doors right now. And like Trump honestly is giving him the leeway to do it. And it's going to make our military great again. But folks, you want the unabridged version of this? I talked about it in my first book, Battle on the Home Front. I wrote this in 2010 on active duty. Okay, I have the whole problem with our military and command structure in there. This is not new. But they're getting pushback now in the Pentagon because they're the first people who are actually trying to fix it. That's what this is about. It's not actually about drug boats. That's just the vehicle they're using to attack him this time. You haven't heard about this report? Oh, look, here, this is actually in the Washington Post. There's a good reason why this is not super public right now, because the left thrives in bureaucracy. And this quiet consolidation that Hegseth is leaning towards could potentially make the most consequential secretary tenure of any cabinet of probably the last half century if he can pull it across the finish line. This is the consolidation that I'm talking about. It would save billions of taxpayer dollars. It would remove massive redundancies and finally allow some accountability, because our command structure as it works now, there's like command on top of command, parallel to commands, all overseeing the same areas of operations, all with competing interests and all with their own staff that all do the same thing, but all fund the civilian defense industry with no accountability. First, let me actually tell you how we got here. This is actually pretty interesting, folks. Okay, so check this out. You have about like a one-star general and, wants to make two-star general, but there's no two-star commands. In other words, the military doesn't need another two-star general. So in order for this guy to make two-star, he goes to his 2- and 3-star buddies who then says like, hey guys, we need an entirely new command. Now, look, everybody's in on this. They know what this is. That this just happens to be a 2-star command for him. I'll give you a perfect example, okay? When I was in the military, we had this thing called EUCOM, okay? It was European Command, Unit 2, all right? Not to be confused with Group 2, which is the East Coast SEAL Team Command. I know, right? When I came back from Iraq, we spent a little time at EUCOM, which also oversaw operations in Africa. And our platoon would bounce around. We had one headquarters, and we had 2 continents that we were just doing all our stuff in. We were headquartered out of Germany. But then some admiral or general, I don't know, needed to be promoted to that 2-star rank. So that guy strolled on over and pitched AFRICOM, which would essentially do what EUCOM was already doing just fine, but would create a new billet so that 1-star could then get promoted to 2-star in charge of AFRICOM. Now, keep in mind, the only thing this does operationally is add more layers of bureaucracy into the permission and the approval process of various operations. It doesn't actually help the guys on the ground at all, okay? But the bigger problem is now you have to staff that command, not just a 2-star, okay? So what was previously all staffed out of EUCOM, you now have to do the same thing at AFRICOM. And you're not doing any new things, okay? You got new lieutenants, new commanders, new captains and sergeant majors and master chiefs. And hey, throw in another 1-star because, hey, that 1-star just got promoted to 2-star. So he needs an XO at a 1-star. That colonel makes rank right there, perpetuating the bureaucracy. And because those roles didn't exist before, oftentimes they got to promote a bunch of other people into these roles. You need logistics, you need new assets, you got buildings, you got vehicles and aircraft, and all this stuff is all new. And that's where the lobbyists come in. Lobbying for defense firms, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, to get a new contract for, I don't know, $1 trillion over the next 10 years for all the things they knew for the new AFRICOM command. They're already doing it in Europe. Look, again, none of this makes the mission on the ground for people like me any better. It just gives me another group to report to that I was operating just fine without. So, you see the opposition of Pete Hegseth, because a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money in and around D.C. from this consolidation, because there's hundreds of commands doing this all over the world. CENTCOM is in the Middle East, PACOM, the Philippines, EUCOM, AFRICOM, WARCOM, SOCOM, all kinds of comms everywhere, okay? Almost all exclusively stood up solely to promote somebody into a new role, not better the mission. All while creating another layer that makes me on the ground get a separate level of permission to shoot a bad guy, just so some general can get the next star, and so Booz Allen, Lockheed, Raytheon, or whoever else can get another contract. Oh, by the way, that 2-star then retires and then goes work for one of those companies, too, for $1 million a year. When they should just all be reporting to the Pentagon, sharing the resources that we've been using successfully for years. This is exactly what Pete Hegseth is trying, or reportedly trying, to change. And that's why nobody wants to talk about it. It's hard to do. And this happens at every level, too, down to the young enlisted and individual platoons. I'll give you a real-world example here real quick. We had a guy in my platoon, not a great operator. In fact, terrible operator, but nobody wanted to fire him because he was actually a pretty nice guy. And it's really hard to fire people in the military. So they just moved him off to the side, and then created this position that had actually no responsibility. But the problem was, in the bureaucracy of the military, you have to get an eval, okay, at the end of your whatever year time. And it's tough to be bad at doing nothing. So that guy got a really great eval, which means he needed to be promoted. But they didn't have anywhere to put a new chief, so they just created another department at the team, made him the chief of that department. That made me then not go to one, but now 2 departments to get my bullets or my dive gear or parachute or whatever I needed. And guess what? He was bad at that too. So they gave him a staff to help him out of other guys that were also bad, and they were trying to hide instead of fire. And the cycle just completes itself over and over and over again. And before you know it, you have 31 new departments all overseeing the same supply line for me to get a single freaking watch, with a bunch of people that just should have been fired. And that's how all the government grows. Not just the military. It never gets reversed. Now, here's where it gets people killed in the Pentagon, because this is on every level. When I would run an operation, like take what we were doing when I was running ops in Sadr City in North Baghdad, when I would go out and deconflict, I thought one night that I had contacted everybody to let them know that we're going to be operating in their area, and not to, so we don't shoot each other, like how Pat Tillman got killed, actually. But it turns out on one particular night, this new command that nobody had heard of had popped up, and it was unbeknownst to anybody in our team. Their new commander had them doing some operation to prove themselves on day one or whatever else, so we could probably get another promotion. And we come around a turn, blacked out in Humvees. We're doing 60 miles an hour. We got miniguns on top, and all of a sudden, here's this M1 Abram tank comes over and fires a 155 round right over my head, which is an artillery round from the front of a tank. I'm glad it didn't hit me, because the guy running the tank also didn't know that we were there either, and was only issued night vision for one eye because the new command didn't have the budget yet for dual night vision. Do you see why this might be a problem? Pete's trying to fix this, and the swamp doesn't like it because they want to buy the extra 2-pair tube of night vision. Look, we won World War II with half the number of 4-stars we have today, and most of those were deployed around the world, actually in combat. Now we have so many flag officers floating around the Pentagon that you can't swing a trash bag without hitting one. You see why they're targeting Hegseth now? He wants to turn this off. Retired U.S. Air Force, former combatant commander, C-17 pilot, Brigadier General Blaine Holt, retired U.S. Navy SEAL officer, chief talent officer over at Overwatch Mission Critical, Mike Sarraille. All right, General Holt, you are intimately familiar with this horse race.
I am, brother. I am. So let's go ahead and start knocking out combatant commands. Let's go back to an old tried and true concept called unity of command, unity of effort. Those are war tenets. And to your point, how would we clean this up? Well, Secretary of War Hegseth is trying his very hardest to get that done through a bureaucracy in the swamp that lives on money. And this is the unholy trinity of not the Pentagon, but industry, the lobbyists, and Congress. Mm-hmm. And then the Pentagon's in the middle. But when you get to be a 3 or a 4-star, you're looking at a board job that might net you $400,000 large. for 3 meetings a year.
Right.
So where I would start is, let's go ahead and thin out the force structure. Let's get rid of a lot of flag officers and let's get to these lean places. But let's get to ethics reform where a general officer for many, many years cannot go onto the board of a Fortune 500 defense contractor. Let's start there, because if we disincentivize this nonsense, you would find that all of these really smart, real generals who really fought wars and really got shot at could actually get into the rest of the country and build things like companies.
Yeah, weird, right? I mean, something that someone like you does. But Mike, let's talk operationally here. I mean, you've been through the same mud as I have, and you've been there when you're like, hey, I need to get approval to go get this bad guy, and they're like, hold on, let's ask these 17 people instead of just one phone call.
Well, first off, I thought that whole monologue was about guys like Blaine Holt. If he can take it. But no, so it was the biggest hindrance. I mean, this is why guys got out, because you needed a plethora of approvals to actually be effective at your job. And it's, quite frankly, why we were ineffective during the global war on terror, because the layer of bureaucracy over our soldiers, the continual addition of ROEs and the restriction of ROEs made it increasingly complicated to win that war. And arguably, we lost. Yeah, and we lost people, too, because people couldn't get out of it. I had an EOD guy that wanted to call back and blow up an IED in place, a great guy, new guy, and the command structure was so bad that nobody wanted to make the call. And they said, no, just bring it back to base. And he was like, I don't think we should do that. It's not safe. Pick it up, bring it back to base, or your court-martial's waiting for you, picks it up, it blows up. You know, I mean, this is the thing that killed people. And they've been writing about this, General, The Atlantic wrote about this back in 2011, where it kind of sums up my entire monologue, which was actually a widely researched culture within the officer ranks. And this guy who did this study, he's found, quote, why our best officers are leaving the military is creating a command structure that rewards conformism and ignores merit. As a result, it's losing vaunted ability to cultivate entrepreneurs in uniform, sir.
One word, victory. If you're not interested in that word, then you won't have entrepreneurship, you won't have innovation, you won't have creativity on the battlefield. You'll stifle your war fighters. And what the civilians, the suits, the senior executive service never, ever wanted was for us to talk about victory, because they wanted to keep this racket going. And what we wanted to see in the military while we were in uniform is, tell me how I get to the goal line. Where is the end zone? I'll take my troops there. We'll sacrifice everything, but you got to tell me what that looks like.
Yeah, and I joined after 9/11 to shoot bad guys, not do paperwork.
Right.
Mike, I got less than a minute left here. When you look at this thing, how many good guys did you see get out that would have been phenomenal leaders in the teams and were like, I'm just done with this?
Well, that was the running joke in the military, right? Is that our very best leave, and those that like stability and career progression remain. But I do remember, and Carl, you may have remembered this, I want to say it was around 2012, we lost 3 mid-grade officers, lieutenant commanders, who were some of the most exceptional leaders at JSOC. Yep. And they all got out at the same time. They sent a very clear message because of the restriction, because of the lack of meritocracy, because of that bureaucracy that restricts them from being effective. No mas.
Victory.
Yeah.
Victory.
Exactly. And Pete's the first guy, I think, to really actually hear this, so it's really good. All right, Blaine Holt, Mike Sarraille, we appreciate it.
Thanks,
Take care.
All right, coming up, another shot at the deep state, a bombshell from the FBI today. This is huge. Agents warned that they didn't have enough to raid Mar-a-Lago. This coming out today, but Merrick Garland just signed off anyway. But first, new job numbers today. Good for the American workers, sort of, but we do need to shock the system, I think. Next.
Will you be able to afford your golden years? Do you worry how you'll make ends meet? You may be leaving up to $100,000 unclaimed. You need this special report. How to boost your Social Security and retirement by at least $100,000 or more. Get your free copy today. You've earned the benefits. Take advantage now. See our special offer to claim your free report. Call or go online today.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
What kind of gift can $29 get you these days? It could send someone to their ancestral village and give them a taste of their heritage, from mom's side and dad's side. That's a big gift for a small price.
You know, WeatherTech isn't just for new cars. No matter how old or new your car is, it deserves WeatherTech. With laser measured protection for every car on the road, we've got you covered. Because messes don't care what year your car is. Whatever you're driving, we got it. We got it. We got it. Got it. We got it. We got it. We've got it. Oh, we got it. No matter what year your vehicle is, it deserves WeatherTech. Order your American-made protection today at WT.com. We're WeatherTech. You know we got it.
It's the Blue Compass RV annual Blue Tag clearance. Save over 40% on select new RVs during our largest sale of the year. Plus, every RV comes with a 1-year VIP membership to RV Complete, a $5,000 value. Visit us online or in store today.
You know, I really wasn't going to address this stuff, but there's been a lot of talk about Trump's truth on Rob Reiner's death this weekend. People are saying that Trump was being insensitive, but like, look, let's just refresh everybody's memory here. I mean, call me crass, whatever you want, but I kind of agree with him. He said, a very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away. He was murdered, together with his wife, Michelle, quote, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. Like, he said it with all due respect, okay? And like, he never said he deserved to die or any of the stuff that the liberal media is blowing. Rob Reiner, like, I have no love lost for the guy. I didn't like him when he was alive. I'm not going to say anything nice about him in his death. I'll just be honest here. This man hated Trump. He hated people like you and me and the rest. He pushed the Russian collusion. Like, why should anybody be nice to this guy? Newsmax contributor Kay Smythe and host of nationally syndicated Tony Katz Today. Tony Katz. Well, Kay, I mean, look, if I didn't like you when you were alive, I'm just not going to stand there and eulogize you.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fair. Look, it's a really sad situation.
Sure.
And I think it plays into so many different issues that we're facing as a country right now. You know, the Reiners were allegedly killed by, I think the prime suspect right now is their son, who allegedly has a pretty severe drug problem. Again, this is all just conjecture, stuff that I've read from the sort of broad spectrum news media. Yeah. And it just kind of breaks my heart in so many ways, because so much mental illness, whether it comes from the Trump derangement side all the way through to the other side of the spectrum, which we see so much mental illness perpetuated by Hollywood, perpetuated in those families, all of them are totally, like, this didn't have to happen.
Right.
Like, this really, truly didn't have to happen. Like, none of this situation had to happen. And I'm with you, Carl. I'm not for, like, faking it out. Like, if I don't like someone when they're alive, I'm just going to leave it alone when they pass away, when they die, whatever the context is. But I just, it just kind of breaks my heart in so many different ways that it all had to happen like this.
I love you both, but you're both wrong on this one. This isn't about whether or not you liked Rob Reiner. I didn't like his politics. I didn't think he was a good person. I thought that he lied. This is about whether or not President Trump makes it more difficult on everybody else who defends him on all the other things. Don't make it more difficult on representatives who need to win re-election, and the midterms are tough enough. Don't make it tough enough on senators. Stop making it difficult, Mr. President. It's as simple as that. I need to win, and I need nothing in my way. And if that means a personality needs to get subdued for half a second on social media so we can have a clearer path to discussing an economic message, what's coming down the pike, what's been happening with the border, saying no to fentanyl, then I'm all in. Don't get in my way of the victory, sir.
You do make a good point. However, for people like me, I'm like, well, at least he's genuine, and it's not going to change my vote. So you do make a good point, though. I got to get to this, Kay. TDS, liberals in Portland, they took like googly eyes and they scotch taped them all over their shirts. Just look at this.
We're doing a Ice Watch, because ICE agents have been in the area at other schools. So we're here just to let ICE know that we see them as a deterrent, as witnesses should there be a detention, and as a warning for parents and children that are coming to school.
They're there as a deterrent, Kay.
You know what this reminds me of, Carl? So I have a friend that used to run a florist. She ran it with a friend of hers, and one day she decided to go in after work and cover the plants in googly eyes, just as like a cute little prank for her friend. So when she showed up the next day, all the plants would be staring at her like Day of the Triffids style. This woman here is about as useful as the I don't know, like the Monstera or the little like
lollipop
fake plant with the googly eyes on them. I mean, what a waste! Get a job, lady. Get a freaking job.
Tony, I got to let you weigh in on this one.
I don't know why you need to let me weigh in on this one. I think that when you see the... Did you see the glue patches where they fell off? She can't even put on the googly eyes properly. This is like the end of Atlas Shrugged when they don't know how to kill John Galt. That is basically what we've gotten to here in Googly Eyes.
Always a blast. Kay, Tony, appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, coming up, House Speaker Mike Johnson drops a bomb on the left over their lies on illegals receiving federal health benefits. But will he do anything about it? Well, we'll find out next.
I'm Michael Savage, and I was conservative before conservative was cool. Do you realize how crazy the liberals in this country have become? I do. You want to get me started today? I'll get started. Watch Michael Savage and the Savage Nation every Sunday night.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
There's nothing worse than losing your dog before their time.
That's why I created Dr. Marty Nature's Blend, designed to help dogs with everything from digestive issues to itching, even moving better.
Nature's Blend works because it's freeze-dried. So instead of destroying the nutrients with high heat, they all get right into your dog's body.
Take it from a veterinarian with over 50 years of experience saving dogs' lives. I have never seen a food make this much impact on a dog's health.
For a limited time, get up to 54% off Dr. Marty Nature's Blend, plus a free gift with our special TV offer. Call or go to drmartypets.com/TV.
We're talking to people today about investments. Let's see if we can get somebody. Excuse me, sir. Do you have a retirement account?
I do. I'm invested in some annuities.
Fixed income? How is that?
It was better a few years ago. Each year, it buys less and less, barely keeping up.
That's where gold can make a difference. Unlike fixed payouts, gold rises with inflation, so you're not stuck with a low fixed payment.
So gold isn't stuck in the past like my annuity?
Don't let inflation erode your retirement savings. Invest in gold. Invest with Noble Gold Investments.
This isn't your average pill. This is Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks.
Rose Sparks is a fast-acting solution because it dissolves under your tongue. Rose Sparks. Guys, get started today.
Connect with a provider to find out if Rose Sparks are right for you.
Hey everybody, Howard Garrett, the Dirt Doctor here. You know, homeowners, farmers, and ranchers don't want to worry about frozen water supplies. I don't either. Freeze Miser product helps me avoid those. It installs in minutes and activates when the water temperature falls below 37 degrees. The Freeze Miser even works in extreme freezing weather. No batteries or electricity, and it's made in the USA. Available at your favorite retailer or at freezemiser.com. It's the Freeze Miser, and it works.
Are you or a loved one a military veteran that has been diagnosed with mesothelioma? Do you have questions about getting the best treatment or paying medical bills? Have you received the proper care and compensation you deserve? Let our firm serve you with the same dedication you served your country. We are exclusively devoted to helping those with mesothelioma. Call now to get this free book, and we'll answer any question you have. We'll even visit you.
Call 800-555-8958 or go to mesobook.com.
All right, so November's job numbers were released today, and while the economy added 64,000 private sector jobs for American citizens last month, unemployment did creep up to 4.6, a four-year high, actually. But let me tell you why. I've been saying this since COVID. We never stopped the damage from the COVID shutdowns. We just delayed it by tinkering with interest rates rather than actually matching those rates with the 9% inflation, much like former Fed Chair Paul Volcker did back in the early 80s when inflation was over 11%, unemployment was 6%. Volcker's shocked policy drove interest rates up to like 18% mortgage rates. But we fixed it. We also have slashed hundreds of thousands of jobs under Trump, government jobs, which a lot of those people are now collecting unemployment. We have deported over 2 million people, some of which still have family here who are now receiving unemployment benefits because their head of household is gone. The only way out of this, though, is massive growth that's got to be driven by huge and immediate liquidity, meaning we got to dump interest rates down to like 1% if we have any hope of growing out of this. Steve Moore, former Trump senior economics advisor and author of Trumponomics. All right, Steve, I mean, Powell kind of screwed us on this one. But there is an impending doom here. If we don't get some serious growth, we've got record foreclosures happening too.
Yeah, look, first of all, the economy is growing. It's been growing by about a 3.5% rate now for the last 9 months. And that's a good number, much better, much better than when we saw under Biden. So that's a good sign. The jobs report today was, mediocre, but when you talk about restructuring the economy, one of the most important things Trump is doing right now is draining the swamp. So the job losses are in the government sector of the economy.
Which is great.
That's where we want to see them reduced, and the job gains are in the private sector of the economy.
By Americans.
That is exactly the reverse of what we saw under Biden, where month after month after month, when the jobs report came out, one of the biggest sectors of growth in the economy was government. Government was hiring all the workers, and that's negative for the economy, not positive. So I feel very good about where the economy is. I do think that interest rates are coming down. I think that Trump's policies, look, how about this, that we got the oil price is now down to like $53 a barrel. It was $80 a barrel when Trump came in. Do you see the media talking about that much? Do you see that on NBC or CNN? I mean, now there are a lot of states where the gas price now is below $2.50 a gallon.
That's, not in Connecticut, but that's awesome for the 31 states.
You're living in the wrong state, my friend.
No.
You go to a red state and there are 3 states where the price of gas is below $2 a gallon.
I know. That's wild to me. That is like 2007 stuff. It's unbelievable.
Exactly.
Speaker Mike Johnson today highlighting, though, that fraud in the Obamacare system, referencing a report from the Government Accountability Office. Roll this.
Over the last 2 years, for example, the investigators at the GAO, Government Accountability Office, they did a little experiment. They in 24 different cases, they applied for Obamacare subsidies. They did it fraudulently by intent. Out of the 24, 23 of them were approved. And they've been paid tens of thousands of dollars, some of them as recently as September of this year.
With tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars in fraud. Is he going to do anything about it?
Billions of dollars. Yeah. And this is a national disgrace. When people cheat the system, they may as well be putting a gun to your head and taking money out of your wallet. That's what's happening with these programs. And it's an epidemic. It's not just Medicare, it's not just Obamacare, it's not just Medicaid, food stamps as well. We're losing hundreds of billions of dollars from people who are fraudulently taking money. And you know what? The Democrats voted in the Senate to just keep the system as it is.
Yeah.
Don't make any changes to it.
But Steve, the other thing too is they all say that it's not happening, but then Johnson put out a video showing this. Roll this real quick.
Yeah.
Is it true that you want to restore American taxpayer benefits to illegal immigrants? Of course not.
If you are undocumented in our country, you cannot get health care from the Affordable Care Act exchange. You are not eligible for Medicare. You are not eligible for Medicaid.
As it relates to undoc health care, yeah, I'm proud of that because I believe in universal health care. You know, others may say it, I get it. First state in the country, regardless of pre-existing conditions, ability to pay, and regardless of your immigration status. I promised that. I promoted it. I ran 3 times on it.
Last 15 seconds to you, sir.
These states like California want the illegal immigrants to get Medicaid and Obamacare because it shovels money into their state. They view this fraud in the Medicaid system and Obamacare as a stimulus to their state because they get free money from the Uncle Sam. The dumbest program ever. We've got to completely restructure health care in this country.
Yeah, we could undo Obamacare. We'd get a good start. Stephen Moore, pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, a new bombshell confirming what we all knew all along, that the Mar-a-Lago raid, turns out it probably shouldn't have happened, actually. Those details next.
They killed her brother. They shot her dog. And they took her hostage for 400 days and terrifying nights. They raped her. They put guns to her head. They starved her. These are the stories of Israeli women attacked by Hamas. If you are supporting Hamas and radicalized Palestinians, this is what you are supporting. Choose freedom, not terror.
Total Beets Ultimate Heart Health is the newest innovation from America's best-selling Beets brand. Ultimate Heart Health contains a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support, plus CoQ10 for even better heart health. Find Total Beets Ultimate Heart Health at Walmart today.
Hi, I'm Steve.
I'm Lee, and we live in North Pole, Alaska.
I was noticing my hearing was not so good, so I got hearing aids. My vision was not as good as it used to be. Got a change in prescription, but I was missing something for my brain. I saw a Prevagen commercial, and I thought, that makes sense.
I observed the changes in Steve. I thought I should try that too.
After taking Prevagen, I just didn't have to work so hard.
Prevagen has been the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years.
Tired of dealing with those old clogged gutters in the wintertime? It's not too late to call LeafGuard, the gutter that never clogs, guaranteed. LeafGuard has earned the Good Housekeeping seal 20 years in a row, and it comes with a lifetime transferable warranty. And remember, in most cases, we can bring our factory on wheels right to your home and install LeafGuard in less than a day. Call during this program and take advantage of our double savings sale. We're going to double your savings to 20% off a complete LeafGuard system. Double your bonus to a $200 Visa gift card with purchase, and double your free gift. Receive a $100 gift card with your in-home estimate. And when you get LeafGuard, you'll have more time to go on vacation. And the first 50 homeowners who call will receive a vacation voucher with LeafGuard purchase, used for a condo, hotel stay, or a cruise. Call 1-800-541-1274. That's 1-800-541-1274.
The difference for me with LeafGuard is the gigantic icicles that used to hang on every corner of my home to this winter where there were none.
If you're tired of climbing a ladder, putting your hands in that icy cold water to clean out the gutters, you need LeafGuard. Get it today, protect it for life. Don't worry about those old gutters hanging off, popping off your home this winter. With LeafGuard, we attach it to the fascia with screws, not nails. It's not coming down. Call during this program and take advantage of our double savings sale. We're going to double your savings to 20% off a complete LeafGuard system. Double your bonus to a $200 Visa gift card with purchase, and double your free gift. Receive a $100 gift card with your in-home estimate. And the first 50 homeowners who call will receive a vacation voucher with LeafGuard purchase. Call 1-800-541-1274. That's 1-800-541-1274.
Oh, the deep state's not a thing. Yes, it is. Kash Patel confirming today that new documents were in fact found stating that the FBI had no probable cause to raid Mar-a-Lago, saying, quote, "It's true, we just turned over documents to Capitol Hill to be made public showing the FBI told the DOJ they did not have probable cause for raiding President Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago. But the DOJ didn't give a damn, quote, and did it anyway." This is huge. Senate Judiciary Chair Chuck Grassley posting the documents and emails that show that Biden DOJ knew there was absolutely no reason to go in there, saying, quote, "As everyone is tracking, WFO does not believe it has articulated to the DOJ CES, I don't even know what that is, that we established probable cause for a warrant or search warrant for the classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. DOJ has opined that they do have probable cause, requesting a wide scope, including residence, office, and storage space." Jay Town, Newsmax legal analyst. I mean, who the hell is going to jail?
Well, you can tell that Carl, there's at least 4 people that you can name just from 2022 that this was going to be the apex of their career, and that's Jay Bratt, the lead prosecutor in this case, George Toxkis, his deputy, both in the National Security Division, Deborah Steidel-Wall, who is the National Archives acting archivist, and then Judge Reinhardt, who signed the search warrant. And then so many in between. But when the FBI, Washington Field Office, is saying there's very little that's been developed related to who might be culpable at all for mishandling any documents, and there are no new facts supporting probable cause, I don't give a damn is not the answer that any career prosecutor, real prosecutor, should give. Well,
and I don't read too good, Jay, because I didn't finish college. But I'm looking here at the Fourth Amendment, I believe, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. And they were just like, yeah, we want to do everything with no probable cause. This is like conspiracy against rights. Trump should throw the gauntlet at these people.
Yeah, and look, the boxes that were received in January of 2022, the president claimed executive privilege over those documents and those boxes and all the boxes that he retained. And in violation, I believe, of President Trump's executive privilege rights and other rights, what did the acting archivist do? Immediately turned it over to the January 6th committee and immediately turned it over to the Department of Justice.
But I want to put up that picture again of all those documents spread out on the floor. I know we got it somewhere in our queue. And it's important to note that while they pull this thing up, they made this to be like it was the biggest scandal ever. They put these top secret cover sheets and secret and classified and, unclassed. They brought those cover sheets with them. It's not like they were in a box in the closet at Mar-a-Lago saying top secret nuclear codes. They just put those on whatever they could find.
Yeah, and you can tell by how neat they are. You and I have handled classified documents most of our adult lives. I still hold a TSSCI clearance, and I can tell you that those red folders never look like that the minute a piece of paper gets put into it, because they get crinkled and crunkled, and you see the banker's boxes that Trump had. Those were staged, and that too makes the evidence against Trump problematic. We can all understand why Judge Cannon spiked this case, because it was wrought with so many violations of Trump's rights, to include whether or not and Judge Reinhardt, who recused himself just 6 weeks prior to signing the search warrant from the Trump versus Hillary Clinton defamation case, somehow found that conflict of interest didn't exist 6 weeks later when he had a chance to take down Trump. This is just a disgusting display by so many people that were trusted with our justice system.
But the other thing, too, and I'm going to give you about 15 seconds to respond, some of those documents were actually shipped to Mar-a-Lago by the Joe Biden White House to get them the heck out of there. They sent them, and then they came back and seized them anyway.
Yeah, they had federal government packing tape on them still, right? I mean, you can't even make it up. There were so many off-ramps DOJ could have taken to get whatever they wanted back. My guess it was Crossfire Hurricane documents. And they didn't take them because they could take down Big Bad Trump, who was announcing he was running for president again, by the way.
Yeah, the whole thing smells like a deep state.
Gross.
But you know what? this is the endless cycle. Like, Democrats do something illegal, Republicans get outraged, and then they do nothing about it, and then Democrats do something illegal again. So here's the cycle. Jay, we appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, my friend.
All right, coming up, a weekend of havoc across the globe as Democrats calling for, you guessed it, gun control. Got that in our 2A Tuesday next.
Think of all the places that could expose you to identity theft. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points per second and quickly alerts you if we detect any suspicious activity, like changes to your investment accounts, home title, or new loans in your name. All through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. LifeLock, for the threats you can't control.
Hi folks, I'd like to tell you about YRefi. Did you know that as an accredited investor, when you invest in YRefi, your interest rate is fixed? And did you know that you can invest from 1 to 5 years and you can spread your investment over those terms to best suit your needs? And you have the freedom to take your monthly interest income or reinvest it, whatever you choose. When you invest in YRefi, your interest is calculated daily, you're paid monthly, and should you need your money back early, there is a liquidity feature. Would you like more information? All you have to do is call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST, or log on to investyrrefi.com. That's investyrrefi.com for complete details. And make sure you review the private placement memorandum and scan this QR code to view the disclosure at your leisure. YRefi, investing in America's future.
It's the Blue Compass RV annual Blue Tag clearance. Save over 40% on select new RVs during our largest sale of the year. Plus, every RV comes with a 1-year VIP membership to RV Complete, a $5,000 value. Visit us online or in store today.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
I trust Balance of Nature because I trust the simplicity of what it is.
This Christmas, get our best price for life when you order the whole health system as a new preferred customer. Go to balanceofnature.com.
Occupy Democrats has got to be one of the dumbest accounts on X. After all these horrible events all over the weekend, everywhere around the world, they tweeted out this graphic of all the mass shootings that occurred in the last week in the U.S. saying, oh, look, Monday, Tuesday, with all mass shootings, saying that Republicans ignored them and the focus is, you know, we need to ban all guns. But one important detail they left out, it all happened in gun-free zones. Also, it's clearly not just the United States. Did we forget about Australia or the fact that Christians are being literally exterminated in Africa by the thousands? The Occupy Democrats doesn't classify that as a mass shooting because they don't, they don't have the resources over there to make that a crime statistic or whatever. But here's one. Over 7,000 Christians were killed in Nigeria this year alone. So mass shootings are not only in America, they're everywhere. In fact, much more prevalent over there. AWR Hawkins, Second Amendment columnist for Breitbart News, and Luis Valdes, GOA national spokesman. All right, so Luis, I look at this and I'm like, Democrats love to say that we are the most violent country in the world with gun violence. Yes, we're number 3 in the world, but if you remove the top 5 or 6 Democrat cities, we drop to the bottom 10% in the planet.
You know, last I checked, the rest of the world, they don't call them mass shootings. They just call them ethnic cleansing and genocides.
Yeah.
What's going on here is very simple. You have policies that disarm the law-abiding, You have soft on crime policies that let hardened criminals out through a revolving door criminal justice system. And you got scumbags on the street that are breaking the law. Because last I checked, murder's been illegal since Hammurabi carved it into a stone tablet. But criminals are criminals because, shocking news, they break the law. Gun control only disarms and stops the law-abiding from protecting themselves.
Yeah, but AWR, that's an interesting point. Why don't we just make murder more illegal? That should solve everything, right?
Right. Well, I mean, and that's about what they're trying to do here with, you look at the Brown University. It's already a gun-free zone. What do they want to do? Make it gun-free times 2? I mean, it makes no sense. They just keep pushing gun control.
Yeah, well, that is the other thing. Well, let's get to the Brown a little bit here. We've got a lot of video coming out about this guy. We've got a lot of buzz about who it might be. You know, we're not going to put it up yet until it's confirmed because we don't want to, you know, screw anybody up who might not be the actual shooter. However, this is something that, Lewis, gun-free zone in a place in Rhode Island where it's impossible to get guns almost. I live in Connecticut, I know. And yet, here it is.
You know, as a former cop, as a former school resource officer, I can tell you this. As we've seen time and time again, when seconds count, cops are minutes to an hour away. Gun-free zones don't stop hardened criminals from committing wanton acts of violence, and all it does is disarms people. We saw that in Brown. We saw that at FSU. We saw that in Valdes. We've seen it in Parkland. We've seen it all across the country. The answer is very simple. If gun-free zones don't work and gun control doesn't work, let's actually arm our teachers, staff, and students. Let them defend themselves, especially in higher education facilities. And right now in Florida, you have a bogus campus carry bill that's working its way through. And lawmakers are saying, oh, it's going to work, but it's not real campus carry. Just arm the teachers and staff and students. It's that simple.
Yeah, I've also noticed that there hasn't been any mass shootings at a gun show, AWR. But Chuck Schumer thinks that we should follow Australia's lead and run all of our guns over with steamrollers. Roll this.
Australia is no stranger to gun safety legislation. They famously took strong action in the 1990s and saw gun violence plummet. Yesterday, Australia's Prime Minister said the country will take another look at their gun safety laws and see where they can make improvements. If Australia can find courage to act, Congress should certainly find the will to act after a tragedy like the one at Brown University.
Do these guys just be like, yeah, support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic? Anyway, let's abolish the Second Amendment.
Right. Do you notice when there's not a high-profile shooting, well, the gun control is working. When there is a high-profile shooting, instead of the obvious answer, gun control failed, their answer is we need more gun control.
And more cowbell.
And so there's never an admission that until the people are armed to defend themselves, this is going to happen. It's just going to happen because people being unarmed gives the attacker the element of surprise, and that's more important than any type of weapon he uses. The element of surprise is what he has when the people aren't armed.
Yeah, exactly. So I like bullets going back the other way. But anyway, AWR, Luis Valdes, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, before we go, a Blue City police chief makes a mockery of Christmas. You're not going to miss this one.
You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
Your parents have given you some amazing gifts. Celebrate the ones you inherited with Ancestry DNA. Explore the detailed family roots, cultures, and traits that shaped who you are today for only $29.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salonpas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salonpas. It's good medicine.
It all started in 2022 when the Biden administration weaponized the U.S. dollar and imposed sanctions upon Russia. Central banks around the globe moved out of dollar-denominated assets and into gold. Jamie Dimon said gold could easily go to $5,000 or $10,000 an ounce. Gold recently surpassed its inflation-adjusted all-time high. Silver's inflation-adjusted all-time high is $209 an ounce. Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 1-800-778-4156.
Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide, home of the No Fee for Life IRA. See how easy it is to protect your IRA with physical gold and silver.
Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
Radical jihadists are not done. Iran promises death to America. They've built sleeper terror cells in the U.S. They support terror groups out to destroy Israel, including Hamas, whose founding charter calls for Islam to dominate the world.
The young people have been educated to believe that the most sacred thing they do is stab a Christian in the heart.
The only democracy in the Middle East that supports religious freedom is Israel. Standing for freedom, not terror.
Every day across the globe, big business agendas go unseen by investors. Things that go against your core values and beliefs. It's time to know your investments. Abortion, alternative lifestyles, gender and identity confusion. If you believe in protecting marriage and life, children, innocence, guarding masculinity, restoring families, defending religious liberty, invest with your values. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
From drained investment accounts and stolen tax returns to lost wages and hiring lawyers, identity theft can cost you more than you might think. That's why only LifeLock offers the $1 Million Protection Package, which covers stolen funds, experts and lawyers, and out-of-pocket expenses up to $3 million in total. Don't face the high cost of identity theft alone. Protect your future and finances with LifeLock. Join today.
Well, if this doesn't make your blood boil, Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara, the same guy who told residents to call cops on ICE officers enforcing, the law, is taking his outrage of Somali arrests to a new, absolutely disgusting level.
It's hard to see the impact that this is having on everyone in our community. It's especially personal to me, having been raised a Catholic, to be in a Christian church this morning as we are approaching Christmas. And I cannot help but think of what is happening in our city today and how that echoes with how outsiders have been treated for thousands of years, how Mary and Joseph themselves were considered outsiders and forced to stay in a barn.
In full uniform, speaking in a church, politicizing Christmas to dunk on Christians in his dump of a city, Rob.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, how warped have these people gotten? It's surreal to see it.
Yeah.
But it's not surprising at this point. This disease has infected everything, even police.
Elections have consequences.
Yeah, that's certainly right. Carl, good to see you. Thanks so much.